In this video, we're going to review the metric system. Now, the metric system is fantastic because it's all revolving around these base units that describe what we're measuring. So our base units are things like the gram. If we're measuring mass, it could be meter. If we're measuring length or liter, if we're measuring volume. Now we can put these prefixes in front to make the measurement more appropriate for the quantity that we have. So rather than measuring like 1,000,000 grams, maybe I'll choose something like kilograms. So we got to remember our base units, gram, meter, liter, but then maybe more important, we have to remember our metric prefixes. Now there are more than just these few, but these are probably the ones that we use most often, and these would be the ones that I would have to know. I mean, anything else we would tell you, we'd give you a little hint. There's like gigograms, and you could have nanometers that are really, really, really tiny, or giga and mega are really, really big. But these are maybe the ones that we would come across in the lab. So kilo is 1,000, so if I say kilogram, I mean 1,000 grams. Hecto is 100. People remember that one. Like kilo, hecto, kilo, 1,000, hecto, 100. They start with H. The two that people mix up a little bit are Deca and Deci. And I should mark in that you could see this spelled two ways. You could see the D-E-K-A for Deca, or you could spell it as D-E-C-A. Both are acceptable. Deca is 10, the bigger one. Deci, the littler version, is 1/10. So if I say I have a deciliter, I have 1/10 of a liter. It would take 10 deciliters to make 1 liter. Now, the way I kind of get Deca and Deci right is just that all the little prefixes end in I. So deci is 1/10, centi is 1/100th, and milli is 1,000. So it would take like 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter, 1,000th of a liter. Okay, cool. So we got to remember these prefixes, and in the mix, like the base unit kind of falls right in here, where we might say the base is like 1. So if I said I have a gram, I mean like I have 1 gram. If I put a prefix in front, then that just changes the quantity a little bit. That if I have a hectogram, I have 100 grams. Or if I have a centigram, I have 1/100th of a gram. So hopefully these prefixes are somewhat familiar to you. And here then is how we use them. Often we have to convert between different units. And so there are different methods of converting your metric units, but I think this is the most foolproof. Some people call it a ladder method. I don't always write it like a ladder, but it goes like this. Up at the top would be your kilo, 1,000, then hecto, 100, then deca, which is 10, and then in the middle you put your base unit. So my base unit is kind of like 1, and it means like 1 gram, 1 meter, or 1 liter. And then we go to the little versions. Deci is 1/10, or you could write it like 0.1. Centi is 1/100, 1/100th, or 0.01. And milli is 1/1,000, or 0.001. So we have to remember this order of the metric system. And some people come up with little mnemonic devices, and some people just like write it a bazillion times until they remember it. But if I have to do any metric conversions, I still write this on my paper. And again, I don't always write it like a ladder, but I know these metric prefixes, and so the first thing I do is I take my paper, and somewhere on the top I write kilo, deca, deci, Then comes the base. Upsy Deca. Hello, I forgot hecto. Good night. Erase. Okay, back at it. Kilo, hecto, deca. Then comes my base unit, like gram, meter, liter, and then I go deci, centi, milli. That's what I write on the top of my page if I ever have to do metric conversions. Then, let's see if this rings a bell. I'm hoping you've done this in a former life. I find my starting unit, and I find my ending unit. So in this first example, I'm starting at DL, which looks really weird, but it just stands for a deciliter. Sometimes the liter is a capital L, and sometimes it's a lowercase l, and it really doesn't matter which. So I'm starting at deciliter, and I'm moving to a hectoliter. So here's my deci, and then I'm moving to hecto. Get out of there. 1, 2, 3. So I move my finger or my pencil, starting from deci up to hecto. I move that many spots to the left, and I do the same thing with my decimal spot. So I'm moving 1, 2, 3 spots to the left, and I do that with my decimal point. So I find my decimal, and I'm going 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. 3 spots to the left. So exactly what you did in your ladder is what you do with the decimal spot in your number. Now, if you run out of numbers, it's okay to leave a blank, and eventually that just gets filled in with a 0. So my answer would become 0.0426. I'm hoping you've done this in a former life. And you're like, oh yeah, no big deal. I just need a little refresher, right? Let's try kilo. Kilo to milli. Oh my gosh. Okay, so kilo to milli. I'm going all the way from the top. Kilo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots to the right. And I do the exact same thing with my decimal spot. So 1, 6 spots to the right. 1, 2, 3. And if I run out of numbers, I can just leave blanks and we'll eventually fill them in with zeros. 4, 5, 6. Boop. Okay, so now these zeros in the front, those I can get rid of. Obviously, we don't really have numbers that start with zeros. So I've got my 5, I've got my 7, and then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 57,000. Now in the end, you can see if this number makes sense. So kilometers or kilometers are giant. Now I only have a fraction of a kilometer at 0.057 kilometers. But if I'm moving to something like a millimeter, millimeters are crazy, crazy tiny. So I'm ending with a big number, but that does make sense that, yeah, there'd be a lot of millimeters in any fraction of a kilometer. Okay, so at this point, if things are going great for you and you're like, yep, I am a master of the metric system, then fantastic. If you feel like you need another practice question or two, here's maybe a couple to try. Okay, what if we tried something like 5.077, and let's make that centimeters, and we want to switch it to meters. And then let's try one other one. Let's go something like 542 millimeters. No, let's not make that millimeters. Let's go something big. Let's go kilograms. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Let's go kilograms, and we'll bring that to something like a centigram. Yeah, I like that. Centigrams. So if you need a little practice, feel free to pause the video right here. Try these two just on your paper, and then bring it back, and we'll go through them in a second. Okay. So if you tried these extra practice, let's see where we're at. So centimeter to meter. And now here's why it's important when you write out your ladder or your order of metric bases, include the base, or your metric prefixes. We have to include the base. That's like a spot. It's a power of 10. So now I'm starting with centi, and I'm going just to meters, which would be my base unit, or 1. So I'm going 1, 2, I'm going to end at my base in the middle, meters. So I moved 2 spots to the left, and I do the exact same thing with the decimal. 1, 2. 2 spots to the left. I ran out of numbers, but that's okay, because I'll just fill it in with a 0. So we should end up with 0.05077 meters. And now again, I can kind of check to see if that's reasonable, because centimeters are pretty small, and so if I'm changing like only 5 centimeters to a meter, it should be a pretty small fraction of a meter. I mean, think about like a meter stick. If I had a small fraction, like 5 centimeters, that's super tiny. So yeah, it's not going to be much of the meter stick, 0.05 meters. Makes sense. All right, then we've got some grams. Oh gosh, I'm running out of colors. There's some pretty funky shades of green here. Let's try something like this. So I'm starting at kilo, and I'm going to go down to centi. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots to the right. Now, if you don't have a decimal spot in your number, then you are welcome to put one in. Or just put one in right at the end. Oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. So I moved 5 spots to the right, and I don't have any numbers to the right, so it's just all going to end up being zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here will be my new decimal spot. So I'll still have the 5, 4, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Which, let's figure out what this is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Holy cow. This should be like 54 million centigrams. Does that make sense? Actually, yeah, because 542 kilograms, I mean, that's pretty massive. That's a lot of mass. So if I'm changing that to a small fraction of a gram, yeah, there should be a lot of little tiny centigrams making up this giant mass, 542 kilograms. Now, at the end here, you are welcome to put in the decimal spot, or if you left it out, I wouldn't mark it wrong. We'll talk more about decimal spots in a later video and where the decimal goes and when it's important and when it's not. But for something like this, if you left it out, it would be okay. All right, awesome. So there's our review of the metric system. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've never even seen this in my life, and if you need more practice than this 12-minute video, let me know.